Hi, everybody. This is Introduction to Counseling, and this is part two of ethics. I'm going to start off talking about physical touch in psychotherapy. A study done some time ago, but which yielded very disturbing results, was a survey done of 285 male and female therapists, which were roughly split in half in gender, and over half the respondents reported hugging their clients. Hopefully, it was a hug that was initiated by the client, not by the counselors. Remember that. Don't hug a client unless they hug you first, and don't give an intimate hug. Give an A-frame hug, okay? A very brief A-frame hug. In other words, A-frame, not full body hug, okay? Now, maybe that's the way they hug somewhere else in the world. I don't know, but make it a brief A-frame hug. Over 1/4 in this survey reported holding hands with clients, and boy, I don't even know what that means really. Briefly touching their hands, I don't know. I'm starting to feel real icky as I talk about this. More than 1 in 10 reported flirting with regards to both male and female clients, so they were admitting some at least moment where something they said was really an unconscious, as they look back on it, flirtatious gesture or thing they said or way they said it. I'm hoping that's what it is. Now look, clients may be attracted to you and you may be attracted to clients. That's a sexual thing. It's an animal thing, and it doesn't mean you have to act on it. As long as it goes away quickly, nothing needs to be done. If it lasts more than a couple, 3 sessions, there's an issue for you, not for them, for you. If you're attracted for them, it doesn't go away. And it's an issue for you. If the attraction for you, but not from you, is by them, it's an issue for you, but it's also an issue for them, isn't it? So, is that confusing? So, this would be something you would have to bring up if it's there from them towards you. And it has to be done very delicately. And I can't tell you exactly how to bring that up. Okay? You can't bring it up right away unless you're very smooth with it. There has to be some trust built up in order to bring it up. Okay? But don't respond to flirting by your client if that's what's occurring. And never flirt with a client, ever. Now, what happens if a client falls in love with you? Will it happen? Probably it'll happen. It depends on how long you've done. I've had it happen a few times in 35 years. This is a sign of closeness and intimacy. It is not a sign of romance and romantic love. It's just not. Okay, it's not a penultimate, ultimate kind of self-actualized romantic connection. It's not. It's about the intimacy and the closeness that's generated because of that, but it's always problematic. Well, often problematic. It has to be talked about. These attractions are what we sometimes call transference. They're transferring their feelings onto you that they really would like to have towards somebody else or have had to somebody else in the past. And even though you're not a Freudian or a neo-Freudian, or use an approach that looks at early relationships, then this is something to think about. You know, what is it that they're transferring onto you, and what is the need so strong to consider this as a potential love relationship? By the way, if you have feelings for the client, then this is countertransference and idealization. It's idealization in both directions. Think about how much idealization is required by the client to have feelings for you. They don't even know you in any substantial way. So this is for them fulfilling a huge need. And from your direction, should you have attraction, whether or not they are reciprocating, is something about you if it lasts more than a time or two. I mean, some people are attractive. So what? So what? Okay? All right. Now, it does happen that counselors fall prey to their unmet needs, to their lack of ability to withhold their impulses, to justify their impulses or their feelings. And when this happens, it's a horrific breach of the sanctity of the relationship and can do a client enormous, enormous problems down the road. It's a breach of confidentiality. It's a breach of the sanctity of the relationship. It's a breach of do no harm. It will eventually be a breach of confidentiality for you or for them, or if it's going to come out some way, somehow. It's going to come out. Everything you do and say, whether it's on social media or a private conversation or in writing on a Facebook page, whatever it may be, believe that it may come out. Anything you do may come out. It's not 1960 anymore. It's not 1970 anymore. Okay. Here, let me ask you some interesting questions. Should I rent an apartment to a current client? No. A couple to which I provided marital counseling asked me to serve as a mediator in their divorce. Should you agree to that? Probably not. Should I accept a gift from a client at the end of therapy, a gift of thank you? Maybe, maybe not. A gift is a piece of art whose value is unknown. Maybe. If it's a very expensive piece of art that's obviously very expensive, maybe not. The gift is a CD. They have noticed you had CDs in your office and they get, probably. A CD that they made that reminds that person about your sessions together. Maybe not. Maybe. Buying a car from a dealership owned by a client. Well, as long as they're not dealing directly with that person who owns the dealership and there's no other dealership and you're not getting a special deal. A colleague asks you to do some counseling with one of their kids because you speak their language, their foreign language, and no one else does in the community. Should you? Well, try to find somebody else. That may disrupt the relationship you have with that coworker, that person at work. So the last thing is to talk about the accountability for mental health professionals. So the last thing to note is we have responsibilities, we have this accountability that we must provide. It's the right thing to do, it's the good thing to do, it's in our ethics, it's in our license, blah, 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 all the way down the low. One is continuing education. You're going to have between 18 and 20 hours a year for that particular license. Those continuing education opportunities, some of them be online, some of them are going to have to be face-to-face, and your licensing board will tell you ahead of time which ones are approved and which ones are not. The second accountability piece is paying attention to your own relevant research findings in your field, particular specialty. You have to do that. So you need to read and get training in those areas. Third thing, apply research findings to your clinical practice. Don't go off on your own, off the deep end, and do things you think might work because you pulled it out of your rear end or because you just heard about it once or you made something up. Don't do that. There are many counselors, and I don't know the number. I'm inclined to think it's a higher number than I wish it was, who do things that are really, if you look at all they're doing, that really they're way out on a theoretical limb that really doesn't even hold them up anymore. You know, and that can happen pretty easily. If you're not being held accountable, no one is going to look into what you're doing as you're doing it. If you're in private practice, after your internship, that doesn't happen. People looking in to see what you're doing. It's easy to get out of whack. It's easy to go out into the never land. And then the last one is you've got to validate how effective your work is. You've got to have a way to do that. I recommend the two rating scales that we talked about. The relationship rating scale, which takes only a couple of seconds, and then the how you're doing, how the sessions are going, and the other is the effectiveness of the work you're doing, the session rating scale. Okay. Have a good one.